Welcome, everyone. I'm joined by Chris Bolton, our CEO, who's in our Center of Excellence in Panama. And today he's joining us from the, I guess we'll call it maybe the bull pit, or what do you guys call it over there?
This is the lab. This is where research and development meets assembly, Colleen. Yeah, and we have QA, QC behind me. We have the head of research and development, the head of assembly, and then of course we have the team that's putting it all together, both in the demonstration area of the warehouse that you've seen before, but more importantly, lining up the staff that we have out in the assembly area as well.
Wonderful. Well, I wanted to start off today's video by apologizing to our investors. I know that we were trying to get the update video out last week, but it was a very busy, very productive week last week, because after many months of planning and the long anticipated arrival since we had brought John on board, our CFO got to visit our Center of Excellence in person in Panama. So that was really exciting.
Well, it was exciting, and there were many, many, many long days. We had 1 week to work with John. We were able to show that he could travel down during the pandemic, obviously, and settle in quite nicely at the Westin Hotel here in Panama. And then from there, come in daily to work with us within the COE, Colleen. So that was very good. John, of course, has expanded, almost doubled the size of the accounting department as we're getting ahead of 2022 activities, and more importantly, ensure both our shareholders and regulatory bodies that we're in compliance.
That's very exciting. And I know that we hired on a couple more people last week as well, so we got to actually meet them in person. So that's really awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, here's a factoid for you. The end of last week, we took possession of 15 more desks to fill our facility. I'm at one of them right now. There's one across from me in around the corner, or 4 more that are stuck and tucked in over there as well. Are we getting in tight in close quarters? You bet. But the good news is the team is functioning very safely. We've got our masks on, but it is a great way for these teams to come together exceptionally quickly. And as I used to joke with the team that's here, by putting R&D shoulder to shoulder with assembly, is what one designs, the other have to make, and the ones that make it have to showcase what was designed. So there's no escaping. They have to do it well on both sides. Yeah.
That's awesome. No, that's great. And on that topic, I got some photos last week of the new crop that is currently being grown in the habitats, the basil. So lots of stuff that has been progressing there with the R&D as well.
Well, of course, we want you to share those pictures without giving away too much, as we're still, of course, pulling together that overall encompassing white paper, and we don't want to spoil too much ahead of that release, which I understand will be sometime the end of next week, correct?
Yep, absolutely. Okay. That's what we're planning to do.
But
so lots of good material.
On that point, though, on the pictures that you do have, we can share those. And if I may say this, for those who perhaps don't know indoor cultivation too well, there's a couple of really cool, notable points to show why our company is ahead of the pack. Number one, when you look at the pictures, you're going to see the plants about that big or about that big. Why is that important? Well, most of our competitors, not all of them, have to cultivate in a separate area or a separate room to get the plants to a point that the roots are big enough to be able to put them into what is called the flowering areas, where the final part of the crop is produced before harvest. We don't have to. Well, we've figured out a way where we're able to cultivate from seed in our habitat to be able to get to the point where it can go through its cycle. And then after it's finished, for those crops that, for example, need to be dehydrated within the habitat, we can dry them out in the habitat without having to move them out. Why is that important? Well, in facilities that have dedicated special areas for what's called a vegetative phase, where we're going effectively from seed to, a plant that's big enough with an established root to be able to put in habitat, we've effectively found a way to eliminate that area, at least the largest part of it. And number two, with regards to drying, where again, the harvest would have to be taken out of that area, moved to another area that's taking up more space. We don't have to do that. We're using the same space, effectively vertically integrating the entire life cycle of the plant in a secure enclosure that's hermetically sealed. So with regards to making best use of space, and more importantly, showing that we can do this with a lot less moving around in time of effort of having to get plant from A to B to C to D within a facility. Not at all. So just want to share, if you can, some of those pictures just to give them this, that thin edge of the wedge of all else that we're up to. And when white paper comes out, that should really showcase all that we do well. And for that, show us where we fit in the universe of our new sector called indoor vertical cultivation.
Absolutely. We're carving out a really unique space for ourselves. I'm really looking forward to sharing that information and getting to chat with the investors directly about any questions that they have. So before we wrap up for today, is there anything else that you wanted to go over?
Well, we do have a lot coming out. We are counting down 25 days to the end of the year, Colleen. We worked hard this weekend as always. So it's a sprint to the finish. What a year for sure. But one of the things that we have coming out, of course, is not just a third party. I think it's a paper on us, right? That will describe a little bit more about what we do. I think it's important when third parties do these documents, because again, for a reader that may not be so sophisticated, they may get on indoor cultivation, may get to see how we perform against others. There's a second report, not a paper, but a report from a third party that I understand is also coming forward. We also have been working diligently on our ESG plan going into 2022 and what that will look like. That's a lot of work, of course, but we are pushing to get that ESG plan up and out to the market before the end of the year. We also have been pushing as hard as we can to get updates with regards to any other what we'll call trends or technology pushes that may be meaningful to us heading into 2022. I don't see anything that's going to require us to adjust course. If anything, I'm finding many others are going to have to adjust their course to line up with us in our technology as we go forward. So all good there. With regards to the project updates, we will be providing more scope on that next week to round off the end of the year, as most projects will go on holidays on around December the 20th, reopen first week of January. So that would be a good time to really understand where things are sitting. And then last but not least, is as we're going to be gearing up for year end next year, discuss a little bit more about how we're coming up to year end, what that looks like. And I would hope that John will be on with us at that time and help us all fill in as to when to expect to get that report, and more importantly, insights as to how we're ending up the fiscal year end, which is going to be very exciting.
Absolutely. And also another thing to remember too, we are lined up to do an interview with Scott from JT Medical as well. So some other great things for our investors to get to watch.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thanks, Colleen, from the lab. Merry Christmas. And if there's anything else you need, do let us know, but back with the group.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me today, Chris.
My pleasure. Always, Colleen. Thank you so much. Okay, ciao, ciao.